Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to welcome everyone. Obviously, Dave and Tim are my fellow board members, members of the public and staff of Council and of IAWAI. This is our first formal meeting, so a very warm welcome to everyone. Before we begin in earnest, I'd like to invite Tim to do it here.
Tēnā tātou katoa. Tēnei rā, he tuatai o te poari o IAWAI. He mahi kaupapa tūtonu, he mahi kaupapa nui. Te oro o ngā wai Māori, o ngā tangata, o ngā hapuri o kirikiri o kia kaute, kia e tai ngā anatira. Ngā anatira mā o kirikiriro, nau mā haramai ki tēnei hui. He karakia ki te, mō te timata o tātou hui, he karakia tātou. He hono re he koi ki ato, he mangaro, he kāra pai ki ngā tangata katoa. E te atua, mai ki a mātai, ka te wairo mō tēnei kaupapa. Kaupapa o te whakaoranga o ngā wai, mō tātou hapui o kirikiri ro o waka. Pauri ora tātou katoa, pai mai.
So this is a public meeting. We do have one member of the public online. I think going forward, I've asked Natasha to look at how we make these more accessible publicly and whether we go for a whole webcast and things of that kind. I know Watercare will do that. I think it is something we should be doing going forward. So just wanted to say that and say a few words about how I think we should handle the board, and then we can move on to the formal business, including the public. I guess the first thing to say is today is very much a procedural meeting. We've got a number of things that we have to do to get the new organisation up and running. So there are some rather, dry reports. But going forward, I'm keen that we do have a standard item of chairs, which hopefully will set the tone for the meeting. We also will need some standard reports on things like the performance of the network, the financials, the major projects. I've asked the staff to try and develop a house style for us so that we do have concise reports going forward. I don't want to see 30 and 40 pages. I'd rather us deal with the main body of a report in 3 or 4 slides. So there will need to be some sessions, I think, with staff to make sure that we don't get lots and lots of technical detail. There will, of course, be occasions where we need that information, but it usually doesn't need to be in the main body of the report. It can be either in a link or an appendix. But I do want to have a concise style going forward. I've also asked Natasha to look at the idea of having a customer story at the beginning of each board. I think it should set the tone for us as a board. It should remind us what we're here to do, which is to provide really good services to our customers in Hamilton and Waikato district going forward. And I want those stories to be authentic, hopefully feature the customer. Maybe it might be a video. For example, I've done this, I've seen this done elsewhere. And I don't want them to be sugar-coated either. It should be exploring real issues with some of the challenges we face, because I think that will earth us going forward. So they were my few reflections. Tim and Dave, are you comfortable with that? Are there any other things you might suggest?
Thank you. Sounds good, Kevin. And just the last time actually reminded me. This morning I got a post from the Huntly community Facebook page, and one of the concerns they had was the water was always brown all the time.
Yes.
So it was actually quite it was just happened this morning. playing this, and I wanted to raise it yesterday, but she actually beat me to it as a customer.
Okay. Cool. There are no apologies today, Sasha. We're all full and present. And are there any declarations of interest? No. We now move into the public forum. We do have two people who've asked to speak. Mayor Jackie Church, who just arrived, and Margaret, who I understand is a former member of the council here and a journalist. Is that right? I got that right? So please feel free to come up, and you have 5 minutes, Margaret, and we're interested to hear what you've got to say.
I should perhaps explain that I was on the council when the historic coal poor case, which led to the Raupatu settlement, when I was mayor.
Yeah.
I was mayor for 3 terms. The Āre Kinui Te Ati Rangi Kahu was a very dear friend and colleague. And when I look in this room, I'm reminded of the importance of history. And if you look behind you, those are 4 hugely important women who pioneered in this space. Hilda Ross, Dorothy Blomfield, Dorothy Menzies, and Dona Braithwaite. Here, of course, is Hari Poki, who was the first acknowledged kaumātua for the city and was also an inaugural chair of the Tonu Trust Board. Now, why am I telling you this? I worked with Peter Gibbons when he did Astride the River, which is the first formal history of the City Council. And what's interesting in that book, if you haven't read it, can I use you to? It takes you up to 1974. And what is remarkable is how water services have always been a hot point in the city, always. And almost inevitably, there's been a split vote. I was a journalist following this place when the first stormwater pipes were put in by a split vote, because academics led from the University of Waikato wanted to do what we now see as legitimate with climate change approaching or already here, with concerns about flooding right across the country. And I have to say, and I recognise the council staff here, it is a great pity that that vote was lost. I also want to commend the papers that you've received, and I'm again following your approach, Mr. Chairman, and I would quote Winston Churchill. And in 1940, when he was chairing, of course, the cabinet, the war cabinet, and there were 1,000 planes dropping bombs on London, he penned a piece called Brevity. And you can still find that online. And it's a message that I've been trying to send around this council, but I think that the last report was 700 pages. And nobody's going to read 700 pages. And that's perhaps why there is such cynicism towards local government right now. So I'm going to conclude by just saying 2 things to you. I'm here today because this is an historic meeting, and I love history. And I want to wish you the very best over the next months. But I also want to ask you to acknowledge that we are on the edge of what is probably the greatest local government reform that we have seen since 1989. I want to remind you how much water is also embedded in those reforms. And unfortunately, and I don't apologise for saying this, what you have inherited is a 20-year-old plan, which in fact has failed to appreciate many of the developments that you can easily access in the digital world. And I'm going to conclude by saying, we talk about growth. The Peacock's growth cell provides some very interesting lessons. The first developer there travelled the world looking at water treatment systems and didn't have a show of getting approval from the City Council. I go back even earlier when I was mayor. The American government shouted me a month-long trip to the States under their visitor program. And I studied with the Environmental Protection Agency, and I studied with the man who at the time was known as the world expert in what was called Mother Earth systems. And I came back here and I did workshops, and we talked about microsystems, and we talked about how managing growth in cities is like just in time in retailing. You can do systems where you can add on a bit, and then you can add on another bit, and you can add on another bit. Now, you've inherited an ancient plan that proposes $500 million on a system to the south of the city. And I'm amongst those who say that is absolute and utter madness. So my challenge to you, on top of the welcome, please be curious. Please be innovative. Please recognise that what was planned 20 years ago didn't even pick up the international discussions which came in 1972, which is the first reported concern when nations gathered to look at environmental issues. All of this information is readily accessible. There are different systems around the world, but not here. So I challenge you, be curious. You have got a very lovely paragraph amongst so many paragraphs in your letters of agreement, which allows you to do that. There's lots of people who've got some good ideas. Listen to them. Thank you. Kia ora, tēnā koutou katoa, and very best wishes.
Thank you. Thank you for your wise words, Margaret. And I'd like to reply with a Winston Churchill quote to say,
I knew you loved
you
that.
said, this is not the end. It's not the beginning of the end, but it probably is the end of the beginning.
Yes.
So yeah, it's exciting going forward, and obviously one of the big things is going to be the water services strategy. I don't think it's something we can fundamentally change on day one, but it is. We are here to start managing this across the whole geography, rather than just accept what we have. So yeah, thank you for your wise words. And I'd also now like to invite Jackie Church up.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Board. Thank you, Margaret. So I think tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. So I think we'll start, you've inspired me, Margaret. So I'll start with a quote of Winston Churchill's, never, never, never give up. And so, you know, as we step into IAWAI and the continual journey of with curiosity for our people, I'm excited and I, you know, applaud you all on that journey. But I didn't say earlier because I was probably being a little bit frivolous. I left all the hard mahi to the kaumātua, and Mayor Paula, who does send her apologies for not being here this afternoon, is that, you know, it is a celebratory day, but I did want to acknowledge that on your shoulders, the three wise men of IAWAI, with your cohort behind you, you have a lot on your shoulders. It's a heavy burden, and it's a historic burden. And I'd just like to acknowledge the fortitude that and the confidence that we have in you. But again, to reiterate, we do have your back on these things. But it is a lot of responsibility, and I can see you're already committed to that mahi together. And you know, anything that we can do as mayors, as councils, and with our teams to support you with that endeavour, you know, we would really just like to lean into that space with you. And I guess in terms of the waters, I come from the North Waikato, and some call me the gypsy me for living in a caravan, or only the northern. But you know, the wastewater treatment plant and the plans for the future are key throughout our waters network, and that's a key in that holistic strategic position. So I'd just like to reiterate that the fact that the water care and Dave's, this is your space in terms of the clip-ons and the availability of adding on to pieces like the Lego onto the Lego is key, I think, in the move forward. And ourselves, obviously, in Te Kaupata, last year we opened our wastewater treatment plant with the same system, and then we opened one again in August in Raglan. So really, I'm sure that you're invited to that ceremony in August. But you know, the technology that is today, we all need to embrace those things. But really, thank you for your commitment. It's not an easy task, and it's going to take a lot of your time. We expect, but we hope. But today we're here to celebrate and give our support to your and to your acumen, each and individually, and the synergy that you'll make together. So thank you so much on behalf of both our councils. Thank you.
Jack. Yeah, thank you. And just we had the benefit of a really nice proofread this morning, and you know, at that we did make some sort of pledges, promises.
You did.
Which probably were just to continue the Churchill theme. Number one, blood, sweat, and tears.
Yes.
We'll work very hard to deliver for the people of Waikato District and Hamilton. Number two, we'll work. We're not just going to go off and do our own thing. We need to work and be joined up with the councils, with Waikato Time and with a number of other key stakeholders like the New Zealand Transport Authority, etc., etc. And number three, we'll honour the IAWAI and we will look at the environmental quality we enjoy here. We've got some very high standards which have been set locally that we need to abide by, and we've got some pretty big challenges coming up because we are getting close to capacity in certain areas around water treatment, for example. Number four, we're going to approach this with the right attitude, which is positive and can do. You know, this is we face a number of challenges, but actually they're all opportunities. So we need to convert those challenges into opportunities. And number five, always remember, is about the customer, which is why I'm keen that we have a customer story at each board to keep our feet on the ground and focus on delivery and delivery. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, and I think, Mr. Chair, the thing that I'm missing from that, and I absolutely agree, but also I would just like to go, it is a day of celebration, you know, yay. That was my best this morning. Because, you know, but seriously, I think the thing that's missing from that vision is affordability.
Yes. Yeah.
And we can't be all things to all people all of the time. And we can't do everything. And that's a tough conversation that we need to put our serious commitment together to actually tell those stories, because there's a political lens, and even long-term plans are political lenses rather than asset management and needs and growth. And then there's like many of those stakeholder voices. So really, that's a lot to balance, as well as, you know, the needs and wants of and aspirations of iwi for the whenua and for the awa. Yeah. But at the end of the day, all of these things come at cost. So I do ask, why? Because I think what's missing from central government in terms of this whole water journey that we've been on through political parties is we ask a question and we all say yes. Is, do you want healthy, clean water? Yes. Do you want a healthy awa? Yes. But we never put prices against those things. I always put it, the reiteration is, because I'm a girl, do you want the Skoda model of that? Do you want the Ford or the Mercedes? Yeah. We never put a lens of affordability against that, so that the people together are guided by what level do we want the aspirations of growth, opportunity, and these things. So obviously safety of the people and the whenua and the awa is important, but they all come at costs, and the higher the exemplar, the higher the cost to everyone. That becomes unaffordable, let alone the trajectory of who gets the bite first. Yeah. So I would really ask that for once in our nation, we actually have those adult conversations with our people. Yeah. And put some lenses of some of those differences. Yeah. Thank you for your time, and look forward to supporting you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. If I could just add some comments. Yeah. Just on, since we're on talking about wisdom, Central. 4 days ago, I was in Berlin for the Dragon Boat World 10th, and we did pretty good over there.
Congratulations.
We did pretty good over there. Back in June of this year, the part of the Spree River became swimmable for the first time in 100 years. And they had a big festival over there called Plus Bad Berlin, where the people of Berlin all went for a swim in that canal. And I mean, I looked at that canal and I'm thinking, that doesn't look swimmable. But compared to what they had previously, it's Three Rivers. There's a whole lot more cleaner than what it was used to be. So it may have taken them 100 years, but they got them. So I just wanted to share that.
It's a good tangible example, isn't it? Thank you, Jane. Okay, so thank you for those contributions. Should we move on now then to my report? I don't really want to give any big introduction here, other than to say that just to formally note that we have had a letter from the Secretary of Local Government, Paul James, notifying us that our water development plan has been approved. So we are the first water CCO in the country now, with 2 councils in membership to have an approved plan. And the Minister will be making a statement today to that effect as well. So I think as a board, we've had no involvement. This is Peter and staff and Andrew and the whole team at Waikato and Hamilton City who delivered this, and congratulations to them. But I think it puts us in a very good position going forward. Well done to everyone. So if we could note that, but happy to take any questions from Dave and Tim if you've got anything you wish to raise.
The only question I had you've already spoken to, which is we're expecting to hear soon, and now we have. So awesome. That's great.
So I think the Minister will probably have released a statement now.
It's on his website.
Yeah.
Minister was.
Yeah. Cool. All right. So if we move on to the Code of Conduct, I guess what we're being asked here, Natasha, is to agree the principles of how we'll operate as a public body. And is there anything you'd wish to add to that, Natasha?
Just to note, and through conversations with you, we've tried to pull out some of the high level principles that we think that you as a board may wish to operate under.
Yeah.
There will be a process, a more comprehensive process to come up with something that aligns with the culture and the values of IAWAI as we begin to have those conversations. But to make sure that we have something for the first day, this is what we proposed in conversations with you.
So are board members comfortable with what we have there? Is there anything missing? Is there anything you wish to think additional that needs to be covered?
Thank you. Was happy with it, and as Natasha notes, it's a great place to start. I guess for completeness, note that applies to the 3 of us.
Yes.
And in due course, of course, it should apply to EY people, everyone, not just directors.
Yeah.
And in my mind, contractors as well.
Yeah.
So it should just be that people who contract services from should be bound by the same code of conduct, code of ethics, etc. And belong down the track as we look to procure things to be able to build that. So that was the other point.
That's going to be a key area for us, isn't it?
Well, I think procuring services that go with how. I think both members of the public in different ways highlighted costs, cost to serve and who pays. So clearly all of that's very important.
Good starting point. Okay. Yeah, thanks for that.
Yeah, thanks for that, then, Natasha. I take that then we're agreeing this, but we will come back to it when the culture and values work of EOI is complete, which I would anticipate will be early in 2026. Okay, cool. So that's agreed. So if we move on to the next item, which is the board meeting schedule, the principle we're operating on here is we'll have a monthly board meeting. That might not be the case when we become operational. We might be able to do it fewer, but I think just now, with all of the stuff we've got to do, I think it's the minimum to have a formal board once a month. We suggested generally it'll be the 3rd week of the month. The reason for that is that means we get live, up-to-date financial information for the previous month. It should be ready on Thursday, 3rd Thursday of the month. So that was the logic of doing the board meeting at that point. And as I say, once we get more to business as usual, we can look at our work programme and see whether we do need a monthly board meeting or not. But certainly, I think in the meantime we do. Natasha, is there anything you wish to add to that? And I'll move on to David.
Nothing in particular, but just that as we have realised through the process that dates may change depending on availability, and if people are flexible to do that, then that's fantastic. But we will communicate as far in advance on all those changes.
And obviously, in the coming months, we have got some informal deep dives just to get familiar with a whole range of issues. But any decisions absolutely need to come here in public to be taken at the point. Okay. All right. So if we move on, then we've
Sorry,
got.
Kevin.
Yes, so
Just a point. I guess I note that it's important that all three of us are at the meetings.
Yes.
And I fully agree with your comments that monthly for the first 12 months would be important. And perhaps, again, whilst it's not a board meeting, we're intending to meet actually weekly.
Yeah.
So I'd hate for people to think that they're just coming together once a month and that's it.
Yeah.
That isn't the case.
Yeah.
It tends to be together, as you've led us to actually meet weekly in person on a Thursday, and just one of those meetings being a board meeting with a public session, obviously, and then more regularly as required, actually. So there's a lot to be done, and I know we're committed to doing that.
Yeah, no, thank you for raising that and covering that. That is absolutely what we've agreed to do.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's good. Okay, let's move on then to the meatier topic of the shareholders' agreement, the constitution, and the statement of expectations. I guess where we are here, Natasha, is the two councils have already adopted the shareholder agreement and the statement of expectations. It is for them. We've got to respond to that in due course. And I guess one of the questions is, we're noting it here, but in terms of response, a statement of intent, what do we need to do there?
So, in terms of a statement of intent, there is no requirement for a water organisation to produce a statement of intent. As a council-controlled organisation, the legislation sets water CCOs apart from all of the rest. So going forward, the process is a statement of expectation that the shareholders will develop. They need to consult with you on that before they adopt it. Once it's adopted, then the legal obligation is for you to give effect to the shareholder expectations. Shareholders can review their statement of expectations no more frequently than every 6 months. And the framework that's set out through the shareholder agreement and the statement of expectation is really an attempt to make that an annual process that is geared to complete a statement of expectations before you begin the annual planning cycle, so that you know what you're shooting at when you're planning the annual plan and the budget for the following year. So that's the cycle that we've been endeavouring to get everybody into. Our expectation, therefore, is that you would not get a new statement of expectation until 12 months.
And the other thing it sets out is what's reserved for the shareholders and what decisions are delegated to this board as well, which is sort of pretty significant, isn't it?
And so there's a framework that is the ongoing framework, which has got relatively few decisions reserved for shareholders. And then there's the framework that applies over the period to 30 June, where not only are there some reserved decisions for shareholders, there are undertakings the shareholders have given where they have agreed not to make some key decisions without your agreement. And that is a serious attempt to ensure that neither council can make decisions over the next 12 months that would significantly change the nature of the waters business or undertakings or what you would inherit without your agreement.
Yeah. So any questions or concerns for David?
I guess part of my thing today, I've drawn to on page 10 of our pack, point number 11, which talks about fairness of charging, cost effective and financially sustainable manner. So more a theme, and we've got a couple more papers to come, particularly on the water service plan, some dollars on it, and certainly cost per connection. Right, 500 million for a south of the city wastewater treatment plant, and I'm thinking, I wonder what cost per connection of that is, and then how does it fit financially sustainable? But nevertheless, that's all part of the fun and the challenge to come, and and one of the metrics that I'm certainly used to is that that percentage of median income. And again, probably the next paper, right, this one, but it's all sort of within that, and I think it's exciting. We've got some big challenges to come, particularly around segments, how we comply with the customer story, already how we comply providing, quality drinking water first and foremost, protecting the outlets through our wastewater services. So I think Kevin sets it out really succinctly, and for me, it's great that it's on diligent. I know where it is. I got my notes, so how I like to go before each board meeting, you go back and read those key things and make sure it's what we're here to do. It's what we're focused on.
If I might just I suppose take that one step further. Not only is there the challenge of the scale of the capital works program and how that is funded and the balance between existing customers versus development contributions and so on, that needs to work through the services strategy. The other significant piece is the shift from rating for water services to charging customers. And the change in the tools that you have to create water charges, and in the absence of water meters across Hamilton, the shift away from capital value to other forms of charging becomes very blunt. It's a 5-year transition away from capital value, and unless there are water meters available at the end of it, that would be replaced by fixed annual charges for delivery of water, which will have a wholesale impact on who pays and the fairness and equity of it. So there's another, quite apart from the size of the capital works program, there's a how do you charge question that you're going to have to work through quite significantly.
And even before you get to changes in charges, we're going to have more of a disaggregated approach going forward. So separately, the water charge, the water amount is going to be separately accounted for, and that will be a very big issue for the public, even before any change, because that's a big number.
And a big number, and a number that will increase. And a number they haven't seen before in Hamilton, because Hamilton's water charges have been all wrapped up in the general rate. So there's a significant journey to be gone on, in particular in the Hamilton part of the responsibilities. That is, if we reflect on the journey that Auckland has gone through, that's a journey that started in the 90s with Metro Water and Molecular Water, and then took a whole new life after 2010 in harmonising charges across water care, and there are big shifts in who pays and what that means. That will need to be navigated, and we need to make sure we learn from that experience in the way we approach.
So all of these things around the financials, the move from general rates in Hamilton to metering, how the debt is allocated between the councils and the IAWAI, the valuation of our assets, which will drive depreciation. These are all really big issues that we need to put in all of them in the coming months. They're very big issues, and they're going to be of really important to the public going forward, aren't they? So that's obvious. So I think we will definitely, we've got a whole range of briefings on these topics. This will be a regular feature on our public agendas going forward. But we also need to, I think, as a board, get round the facilities, the front line, and sort of see some of these things firsthand so that we can see for ourselves and check out. I've seen a lot of good work so far. I've been very impressed with the staff I've met. But I do think we have an opportunity, and I know Andrew's already on the case here, of looking at the whole water network for the two authorities together as a system, and looking at the growth pressures together, saying, well, what's the optimal way to manage this? Quite a big envelope from the councils to be able to flex that on. I think it's exciting. But as a board, I think we need to do that due diligence ourselves, not get out and about. And that starts next week. We've got a day, haven't we, looking in the Waikato district. We've got something being planned for Hamilton in the next few weeks. So looking forward to it.
Kevin, if I could just highlight two other key things.
Yes.
There's some commentary in the paper around paragraph 15 and 16 about share structure.
Yeah. And what the shareholder should be
and
reserving.
And it's important that, by the time you work through the actual shareholding, it's going to be about 70-30 between Hamilton and Waikato district.
Yeah.
But that number only means anything in the context of the shareholder support that will be extended to underwrite your borrowing. In every respect, this is an equal partnership.
Yeah.
All decision making between shareholders is 50-50.
Yeah.
And both councils have approached that from the point of view of saying, well, the law says Tainui can't be a shareholder because only local authorities can be shareholders. But we have a partnership with Tainui, and therefore we want to ensure that we respect the partnership and reflect that in the way that the shareholders, that the councils come to overseeing IAWAI and its performance. And therefore, within the shareholder forum, the IAWAI forum, Tainui has 3 members alongside the 3 members from each of the 2 local authorities, and in board appointment processes, Tainui votes in the same way as the shareholding councils do. There are a smaller number of decisions that are reserved for shareholders. Yeah. So that's the first piece. The second piece to highlight, I suppose, is both shareholders have been at pains through the process to ensure that all of the foundation documents reflect their commitments to Te Ture Whaimana and to Te Tiriti and to the partnership with Whaimana. And I think it's hard to understate the commitment that both councils have made. And with that comes an obligation to IAWAI as to how to ensure that the commitments through the joint management agreements and so on that all are part of the river settlement given effect to in the way.
And that's again another briefing we're going to have, isn't it? A session on our relationship with Tainui, how it's done now between the 2 councils, whether we simply continue on that, whether we need to make any tweaks to obviously it's not our decision, we need to do it. We co-produce that with Tainui going forward. And I think there is also an opportunity as we populate our new structure and do some culture and values work to build this into that work. So it's an integral part of it. So that it's something that becomes part of how you do things here in AWAI.
I think that's the morning thing, people will good demonstration. Putting the treaty in action. And council and the iwi that were there, they actually wanted to be there. You can see that. It wasn't just turn up. You can talk, turn up. They actually did want to be. It was a good start.
Thank you. Anything else for Peter? I think formally what we're being asked to do here is sign up to the shareholder agreement, which has already been agreed by the two councils. That's a formal decision for today. Andrew, is there anything you want to cover?
No, I think you've touched on all the points. There's nothing there.
So the formal decision is, do I have your support to sign the shareholder agreement?
Yes.
Yes. All right, thank you. So moving on to the next item, it is the Water Services Delivery Plan. As I said earlier, that's now been approved. It's a decision of Paul James, the Chief Exec at DIA, and the Minister has now put a statement out. There's some really big issues here, aren't there? There's a very big CapEx program. So there's going to be a big challenge around delivering that. We've got the path to financial sustainability and all the affordability issues that we just covered earlier. We've got a significant change in the charging mechanisms over a 5-year period. We still have in EOI quite a lot of debt headroom going forward for the growth, which could be used if we can find efficiencies moving forward to do even more to meet some of the growth aspirations of both councils. So I think some really big issues here, but probably the thing we should know formally is the approval of the plan by the Secretary of Local Government. Is there anything either Peter or Andrew wants to raise on this Water Services Delivery Plan?
I think it's important to note what it's not. Yeah. So in preparing the Water Services Delivery Plan, we adopted the view that said this is a one-off thing that you need to have a formal approval of the direction of the delivery of water services.
Yeah.
And that we had a short period of time to do it, and that it would have been silly to spend a whole lot of time and effort trying to optimise the whole of the capital works program and other things, and then as soon as you've done that, appoint a brand new independent board of directors to do the same thing all over.
Yeah.
So the Water Services Delivery Plan basically takes the existing capital works programs and operating approach for both Hamilton and Waikato and joins them together.
Yeah. And
demonstrates that when you do that, there is sufficient debt headroom to fund the capital works program. The revenue that you can raise is sufficient, and that there are significant opportunities for efficiencies. But it does not attempt to optimise the capital works program. It's not gone back through and said, are there things that you could do fundamentally differently as a result of picking everything up? It does not optimise the revenue pathway, and those are the things that now sit in front of you.
Yeah.
And they happen in the context of the move towards Commerce Commission oversight, and what will be a new set of regulations from Tamata Hawaii with respect to water and discharges.
That's the opportunity, isn't it?
So it would be remiss not to be very clear that our whole approach to the Water Services Delivery Plan is to say, what do we need to do to get to the point where we're at the start line? Yeah. Now the real work starts.
Yeah.
And the real work is going to have to seriously address the challenges that you just talked about, the affordability, scope, and deliverability, whether the size of the capital works program raises some significant questions about the ability to procure and deliver all of that work within the time frame. Equally, it's important to note, the growth that both councils are grappling with is significant. It's a 10-year plan and it forecasts a 22% increase in the population. That's enormous and very quick. And it happens in the context where much of the system that we currently have is coming to the end of its free capacity, and the next lot is a very big and very expensive increase in capacity, either for water supply or wastewater treatment. And when you get to the realisation that most of the growth is going to happen at the edge of the existing Hamilton City Council boundary, and at the edge of the Hamilton City Council boundary, there's limits as to the amount of water that you've got and the water pressure that you can maintain to actually pipe water beyond the boundary and into what is now like the district. Well, to get there, there's a whole lot of stuff you've got to do to get back to where the water comes from in order to make it the network work. All of those sorts of challenges, the rich opportunities to do things differently, and I think
I completely agree with Peter's summary. I just draw your attention to what I think is a material point. Not only was it a aggregation of the two councils' existing LTPs, we also included some provisions for other things that government was obligating the councils to do at the time. So, for example, we included funding for the rollout of universal water meters in Hamilton City. That was not in Hamilton City's LTP, but we have included it in the water services delivery plan. We also included a blunt provision for all of the known fast-track consent applications that are likely to be consented by a government-appointed board in the next 12 months. With the exception of the meters, which we've included early on to match the government-mandated 5-year timeframe, all the other additional inclusions have only been booked from year 5 onwards to manage the pressure on IAWAI and deliverability. So not only have we got a combined plan, that one combined raises questions around deliverability and procurement. We've had to load in those additional items that are coming at IAWAI because of government decision making. Two big positives. So the first positive is the water services delivery plan shows IAWAI is viable and it works. And so without any attempt to moderate alter or find efficiencies. The second, big positive is the water services strategy, which we're about to start on, which is this board will have fingerprints on over the next 6 months and 12 months, because that's where the real energy needs to go, and that's where the opportunity is to recast the playing field.
So the sorts of questions are, we've got effectively, bearing in mind we have got a future-proof framework for this sub-region, but we do really have two sets of plans that are sort of in silos. And one of the opportunities is to see, can we do that smarter, faster, better by joining up our system in some way? And I guess there's also some questions around having settled on, and if there are any changes to the capital programme, how do we do the procurement of that as well? Because it's quite a micro-managed sort of approach, which actually means quite a lot of risk with IAWAI in this case, because we're going to be launching that going forward. So there are some big issues that come from are likely, potential changes to what's in the base case.
Absolutely. And I mean, in the procurement space, big strategic question about the appetite for major strategic partnerships with others, and what that means in terms of the allocation of risk and reward and the ability to deliver. And in terms of the joining things up, I mean, there are some high level things that are that have been reflected in the future-proof plans for a long time. Like the construction of the southern wastewater treatment plant and the diversion of wastewater from the south of Hamilton south, so that Narrawahia can be diverted to Getty and you can service that area to the north of Hamilton. There are others, like the parts of Waikato district that are provided drinking water from Hamilton, but it's a trickle feed overnight fill up sort of a system. Or can you move from that to the real delivery of water and make the network work? How we optimise water takes across the whole length of the river and what that means in terms of treatment and equally discharge.
Look, I think we've covered a lot of really interesting issues that need to be, we need to get our heads around them through these briefings that we set up. And this is the real job of the water services strategy, isn't it? Really to sort of figure out where do we need to do things differently going forward, and how much can we do at any one time, and that's all about judgment, isn't it? So I think this is sort of going to be along with the pricing, because this is all connected, of course. These are the two big topics, aren't they?
Sure.
I think what we're being asked to do here is to note the plan. It's a compliance thing with government requirements legislation, and to probably to understand that we have got a whole series of briefings around what will be the analysis and the emerging options around the services plan for the future. Okay. Dave?
Thanks, Kevin. Two points. Point 34 in the document, 2.6% of household income by 33, 44. Certainly, people were wasn't sort of a month ago. It always started with a 1, and actually we had a mandate maximum of 1.5, and we're going anything over that was going to be pretty unpalatable.
So where have about that?
That's but different situation. I just wanted to congratulate the team for what it's worth. I understand completely how much work goes into producing these, and for DIA requirements, which I'm sure changed during the course of the development of the plan, as I experienced elsewhere over the last 6 months. Just fantastic piece of work, and as a basis to get us to the start to look at it. And then finally, Kevin, it continues to resonate for me. How does growth pay for growth? So if the residents of Hamilton City and Waikato District are paying for what they've got, the people that aren't here yet are coming, and the added costs that will come with that to transmission pipeline wastewater, transmission pipeline potable water, particularly to get to pressure for firefighting in residential areas, that firefighting requirement drives a lot of that pressure requirement. That's a massive cost. And how does that fall on people who come in will enjoy those benefits versus people who are here having to pay for somebody else plus themselves? And then how does all that work is going to be extremely fundamental.
And I think when we
be some of the first things we have to grapple with. Really. But how does growth pay for growth?
And the short answer is it doesn't yet.
Well, no,
and hasn't here.
Hasn't, but,
But and I think there's also,
22% growth.
it's also complicated, isn't it? Because we are reaching capacity in a range of areas. So it means the growth isn't just an incremental add-on to the network. It actually requires, in some cases, some fundamental reworking of the core network, which makes that even more complicated.
Well, it does, but if the current residents, if there were nobody else coming, it would be okay.
Yes, that's right.
Then if this leads you to the growth, the straw that breaks the camel's back, who's the next resident? Do they have to pay the whole cost?
That's right.
Work?
That's right.
It's
That's the hard bit.
It will be.
And that's why I think it's
some
important.
tough decisions.
That's why it's important we get around the geography.
100%.
To really understand that.
Yeah, and I come back to the 2.6% household income bracket. It's, but nevertheless, some exciting challenges to get to.
Just one thing we're saying is there is some excitement, especially from an operational perspective. So identify those opportunities, efficiency opportunity. Now we have both councils really coming together to look at the network in its entirety, not just from my backyard, but your backyard. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
Okay. So I think, so we're just been asked to note it at this stage. We know that this is going to be one of our big topics going forward. We've got a whole range of things in the work programme to get our heads around it, and we will return to this on a regular basis. So we'll do it on, so we'll note the item and move on to the next report, Natasha, which is the relationship agreement. This is with the two councils. It's for a 5-year period. And it's based on the expectation that we're going to move towards direct billing, as we've been talking about, different charging mechanisms, but it's also looking at all the backend support. These two things, again, are linked, aren't they?
So this version only covers to 1 July next year.
Yeah.
It sits in the framework of the agreement between the shareholders that we develop IAWAI using a shared services framework to avoid having a whole bunch of stranded overheads sitting inside the councils, and the expectation that until we complete the migration, so the installation of water meters and the migration to a whole new billing system, councils will continue to bill on behalf of you over that 5-year period. We've been around the houses in terms of how you construct a shared services framework when we're in the middle of figuring out which way's up and what is IAWAI and trying to juggle through the establishment phase. So this agreement is intentionally high level and relationship focused rather than getting into the nitty gritty of you'll have X of this and Y of that.
Yeah.
It's a goodwill framework. And it's not intended that this will be what comes for the following year. For the following year, there will needs to be a more formal shared services agreement, because there are shared services that go in both directions between the IAWAI and the councils. I think both sides will need to have realistic expectations about the level of service that's delivered and the cost that goes with that. But this is intended simply to bridge the next 12 months and ensure that.
And I think the good thing about where we are is this de-risks the go live on 1st of July significantly. But actually, we do need to come to a view about, so what is that metering going to look like, and what's the solution in terms of the back office? It's obvious that we're going to, over a period of time, say goodbye to the council systems. But we do need to come to a fairly early view about what the answer is. Like, again, this is not the priority for the reasons we've covered. It does significantly de-risk us, but actually we do need to come to a view about what the answer is. Yeah, progress that over a measured period of time.
And that urgency is reflected in the decision to have a chief digital officer in the day zero structure for IAWAI, and to have commenced that recruitment, and we're getting to the sharp end of being able to appoint someone. Yeah, once Kevin meets the right candidates next week, and all of that is designed to help you come to the view as to and what is the digital and operating environment that we need to have, and how we might have that, ensure that that is in place by the time we come to the end of the water care contract, 30 June 2028. I mean, it does worry me. It is one of the areas. It's not an immediate concern because of the de-risking, but I think we are way off where we need to be in terms of the right management information going forward and a good platform. So there is a lot of work here. It's something, there is going to be an option about us doing it ourselves on our own, but we should look at all the partnership opportunities with our neighbours. It would be stupid not to do that. Yeah. So I think there's a whole range of options that we need to work together as a board.
water care is an option. There are obviously our neighbouring new water entity that's emerging in the Waikato, also the Bay Plenty option. We should be looking at all of those opportunities and even further south. So there will be some opportunities for partnership. That brings with it a new set of risks. But I think it's something that does require some urgent attention because we need to arrive. It will take several years to implement. So we need to form a view probably before 1st of July about what the answer is.
I would say ideally by the end of this calendar year, you need to have the runway that direction of travel, because to complete complicated data migrations and ensure that all of the operational systems are
And procurement process.
Yeah. And one thing, but all else that we have to ensure is that nothing in the transition process gets in the way of the continued safe operation of water supply and wastewater treatment.
And safety of the people.
So it's a sort of stopgap, really. It de-risks it, but this is a major change area going forward that we need to get right and get on the case quickly.
Yep.
So again, I think formally what we're being asked, we are party to this agreement. We need to be able to sign the relationship agreement with the other two councils. That's what we're being asked to do.
It seems to be my way. A couple of points, if I
that's
could,
all right.
Chair. Page 19, Peter, I think from some of the conversation, you know my allergy to MVP. And actually, the more I've seen it, I think it really undersells it. I think the shareholder agreement without this, we actually couldn't operate, and we wouldn't be able to. So, again, we thank both councils for it, and I know that the shareholders actually want us to make sure that 1 July next year we have a basic solar business, which I think is way better than a minimum viable product. Nevertheless, just for completeness, for the record. And I couldn't see, I was thinking in my preparation, there's a couple of other relationships. There's the Waikato River Authority and the work that they're doing to improve the quality of the awa and for us to be cognizant of and be thinking through that. And publicly available information, the Water Care and Waikato Tainui Kawanata, which signed, I think I'm a signatory to it actually, but was signed circa 18 months ago. And both of those, the way those two entities will be about the quality of awa. And so, you know, we're clearly through Waikato Tainui had the relationship around that, but the River Authority as well. And you know, from certainly if the source water quality improves, so it reduces our cost of operation. So there's many good things from good quality of that. Just I couldn't see where else to bring it up today. It's particularly River Authority and the work that they're seeking to do.
So in the context of shared services, the proposal with respect to stormwater is that the councils will continue to own for and be responsible for stormwater.
Yeah.
You will provide all of the stormwater expertise.
Yeah, and
So
physical construction and that type.
and maintenance and all of the advice that goes around this is the best way to treat stormwater in this catchment and so on. So where that takes me is in the context of the River Authority and Tainui, well, and below that, Te Hapu and our engagement is when it comes to stormwater, it's going to continue to be IAWAI and council discussion. And we're going to have to ensure that the partnership relationships that we have recognises IAWAI is the owner and operator of water and wastewater, and the council's advisor and agent with respect to stormwater, and in terms of the quality of the awa. stormwater is probably a more immediate and significant increase in issue than the management of wastewater discharges.
Okay. Are we happy to authorize the signing of this relationship agreement? So from the discussion.
Yes, yes.
And now we have the next item is the delegations, which again we're being asked to sign off. Obviously, there's some delegations to IAWAI, and then within IAWAI there are delegations. So two sets of issues here. Is there anything the team want to add to what's in the paper?
And only to be clear that with respect to the major projects that the council's decided the IAWAI needed to drive.
Yeah.
The budget for those is the budget that the council's agreed for those projects. So it's an ability to drive them within the budget that's approved. Yeah. And the decisions that have been delegated only go up to chief executive. So anything that would previously have needed to go to either council with respect to those projects will still need to go to them in this period to 30 June.
Sure.
So yeah, we just need to, we're going to have to work our way through.
Yeah, we've got a shades of grey view.
Shades of grey, and equally that whole need to ensure that you don't just arrive with the and here's the piece of decision that we need from you to spend X million dollars on this contract. Is the engagement that will need to take place before we need to ensure that they understand and they're comfortable with the approach and the decision that they're going to be asked to make. Yeah.
I guess the other point that I would make just on the financial delegations is that we are working within a very tight budget, and so I think the budget has been forecast, but there will be very initial group announced. That budget has been agreed. So the budget levels are set within the internal delegations that are within councils.
And whatever we spend now will certainly be used on day one.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, nothing's free.
Yeah.
Some of it is.
Okay, great.
Some of it is.
All of that.
So,
Well,
so
someone's paying.
Still someone pays for it.
Someone
Right?
paying for it.
Or in their tax.
the key takeout for me is, particularly in relation to the financial delegation policy, is it really relates to those transfer projects from the two shareholders for this in 11 months now, and the critical need to just simply maintain momentum and management decisions in relation to those projects. So some of them are quite significant growth-related projects, or to remove constraints associated with growth, or relate to already contracted grants from central government that are being managed by central government in exchange for the councils and our IAWAI delivering the physical works funded by those grants. So the scale of the grants is significant. For example, the Infrastructure Acceleration Fund grant is just over $150 million. That has a material positive effect for IAWAI in terms of revenue, and as it used to have for the councils and the councils reporting control as well. So that I know I take your point, it's not free, but it is part of our overall financial framework that IAWAI is operating in, and there are contracted agreements in place that the shareholders expect IAWAI to be effective.
Move the number of that. Great. Now, we should have some significant community iwi engagement as well over the past so many years.
Absolutely. And that is continuing with one of the Health as well. And that's been on those transfer projects. We can talk further to that and some of the details in coming weeks.
Okay, any other comments that people want to raise? I mean,
All noted.
we're basically being asked to approve the delegations from now until the 30th of June. And then obviously we'll look at the issue again when closer to go live of what needs to happen post July 1st.
It'll first weeks.
Yeah. All right. Cool. That's agreed then, Natasha. And then I think the next one is the media policy. I guess, you know, the issue here is about being joined up with partners and being not just reactive, but being proactive, isn't it? Particularly challenging issues are probably the big issues here. Are there any points that staff want? Nicole, do you want to cover anything here, or do the team want to raise any issues here?
Read, it's, you know, standard practice for many organisations, especially in high pressure or fast moving situations, and in some establishes that the board chair, the chief executive, and myself as director of or anyone in which the chief executive may delegate that responsibility to on a case by case basis. And we spoke yesterday about an internal management policy around a similar approach to what we do in councils at the moment, where the general manager of that leads a portfolio of projects would be able to speak for those projects, and we would imagine the same in this case, which is the council's current standard practice.
The key messages for me were be joined up and no surprises, really. And proactive, I guess, would be
Open and transparent.
And I see that there's a healthier story on that story.
Yep.
I'm assuming the media policy was followed through on the team.
ad infinitum. It's been bounced
Consultation.
On page 36, if I could, I didn't quite follow. It says this policy does not apply to, and it says executive chair, chief executive, and those. I was confused by that. I thought the policy did apply to everybody, but it says specifically it does not apply to.
Yeah, I picked that up as well. The policy was drafted before I came into this role, but I think the intent of that is that the chief executive or the executive chair has ultimate ability to speak to media, and that's at their discretion.
Okay, so is that what's sort of mean? Because the policy
Just look at the
much more
wording.
than that.
Yeah.
So
Look at the wording.
more than comfortable with it, just that one little point to go, you know, that specifically says this whole thing doesn't apply to people. And I go, but I didn't think that was the intent. That was,
Should we correct that? Yes. Yep. Yeah. I was very open towards comfortable with us.
Yes.
yeah,
I think
more
if
than
we
happy.
cover what you said, Nicole, say that, you know, they should ultimate decision making will rest with the exec chair, but these are the principles on which we can live by.
Yep, and so it's going to be changed, and if you were happy with it, Kevin, then I'm happy to approve it on that and sign off on that basis.
Yeah.
Just come back from that.
Any other thoughts or comments that people have?
I did have one on page 38, but it's a little bit of a tangent to this policy, which is crisis. And, you know, then quickly about, you know, do we have a crisis escalation policy that will process that brings the board together and, you know, all that sort of stuff. But it was like,
So the short
probably don't want to raise that. But
The short
never
answer is-
raised it.
short answer is not yet.
Yeah.
And-
And no criticism
Well,
applied, just like a sort of, okay.
So on the work program is to ensure that all of that framework is in place and is tested and works before we go live.
Yes.
But for the next period of time, the crisis response responsibility sits with both of the councils and the way that they right? We'll need to make sure that you are kept informed if something blows up. They are the ones that are on.
I mean, let's,
Thank you.
just a few thoughts. I think they've got very good practices here
Yes.
in terms of emergency planning, actually operating that. And we've got a lot of staff who are in the wider Waters team that we're not yet responsible for, who do this for a living, you know. So a
Yeah.
couple of weeks ago, for example, we had a number of senior people on 24/7 by call over the weekend because we had bad weather. So I think it's sort of in the DNA of the workforce.
Yeah.
What we need to do is to make sure that as we move to the new structure, that remains the case, and that we do everything we can to nurture and develop that.
And the other challenge with that will be to wean mayors and others off their current expectations of what they do when there is an emergency.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Very good.
So
That's
so
what we want.
Well,
Nevertheless.
well, and the answer there is they need to be kept informed. There may be times where it's appropriate for them to say something, but they need to understand that they're not in the front line of the response.
Yeah.
Just a comment, because I think it's quite a deep conversation to have in terms of emergency civil defence response planning over the future months. But just like any good muscle, you're better if you exercise it. And I think that shareholding councils are quite exercised. So, for example, I've just yesterday approved by someone down to the South Island as part of their response plan. I know Waikato District's running a scenario,
Yes.
a firearm scenario, which the city will participate in. The opportunity is, notwithstanding, IAWAI's practices and frameworks, but is to stay in touch with local government.
Absolutely.
To maintain that nature of practice and exercise and assistance, because I think it's only through that IAWAI would truly be successful if it had to deploy something.
No, I completely agree. It needs to be joined up. What are the emergency planning arrangements separate between Waikato and Hamilton?
There's at the risk of getting into detail, there is a regional capability as well.
Yeah.
Which is run out of the Genesis building.
Okay.
And
So they've got like a Waikato-wide emergency planning team that's small but does coordination.
and then there's a Hamilton capability as well as a district.
Well, they need to know that we're part of the overall response. We can't just do our own thing.
And the national lifelines as
No.
well. Yeah, there's a whole
We haven't really covered this. It's probably not doing what, because we're not responsible for this now.
So we need to sort it before day one.
Yes.
And the key piece in that for me is to recognise there's the hat that IAWAI wears as a lifeline utility provider, which needs to fit into the national lifelines framework and all of that stuff. And then there's the hat that IAWAI will wear as part of the civil defence and emergency management response across both councils. And certainly with respect to stormwater and flooding, that's the point that we will need to be absolutely completely joined at the hip and make sure that we've got the right people doing the right things across both organisations.
So they shouldn't notice any difference really in that short term. But we probably do need to build something into our work program. It's not near the beginning, but it's in there.
We've recognised that it's what we need to do for that.
All right, a bit of a divert there, but actually an important one, because we've all seen, when Wayne Brown was just newly elected, it was a massive issue.
100%. It was day two and didn't go that well.
Long weekend and everyone got that.
So probably doing some, as part of looking at it, we'll need to have, I think, some training and scenario planning and stuff like that to make sure that there might be actually something we need to do as a board actually on here, but certainly we need to make sure that the team are doing. I'm sure they will be, because it is an important part.
I'd suggest that the most common event is not actually a natural disaster event. That's a building, a major industrial building burning down.
Yeah.
So I think IAWAI will need to grow those relationships into FENS and others.
Yeah.
Because when a building burns down, the fire service will want immediate access to water, which will become highly polluted.
Yes.
Which will lead into the stormwater system.
Yeah.
And so I'll stop there, but
Yeah.
you can just see how integrated everything is.
Yeah.
And the need for a very integrated response.
Cool. Look, noted. So other than that, and the proposed change we made, I think we're comfortable with the media policy.
Yeah, very good.
All right, and I think that really completes the agenda. Is there any other business? It's not formally on the agenda, but is there any other business?
Just to notice that last fourth, through several of the discussions we've had, there's the intersection between what we're trying to run as the program to establish IAWAI
And the operation.
and the operations,
Yeah.
and understandably, a whole lot of questions that you will have about, well, what are we getting? How does it work? And have you done this and this and this and this? So as part of that, the discussion that we had yesterday with Kevin and the IAWAI team was, I think we need to have a standing item on your monthly meeting where I can come and talk about the establishment program and where we're up to, and the green lights and the red lights,
A sort of traffic light trends.
and a check-in that provides you comfort that we haven't left whopping great big holes that are going to be problematic. I mean, the program itself needs to report to all three organisations, but clearly it needs to meet your needs as well.
Okay.
Right.
We set up, we started our first set of weekly meetings for the staff just yesterday. And I'm sure some of as we get, so big area of discussion was around people issues. And we will be having a deep dive on people issues. I mean, we had a brief discussion in one of our sessions with Michelle. So that weekly meeting will start to shape some of the things that we need to cover in our workbook in the next couple of months. But so you've got to start somewhere. Okay. Is there anything else that it's not formally on the agenda, but are there any other issues we need people want to raise before I'm going to ask Tim again to close this. But is there anything before we do that?
Selection of CEO recruitment agency.
We've got three. We've got proposals in.
RFP closes Monday. We'll review them on Tuesday and engage.
So we'll have a conversation and then
that'll be sorted by Wednesday. Still.
Awesome. Me really looking forward to next Wednesday. A couple of those WDC facilities I haven't been to, but looking forward to. Really looking forward
with a different path now.
Yeah, it's still the same brain though.
Yeah.
So really looking forward to next Wednesday. For me, I suppose we'll formally, I think the OFRI today marked and hit home for me about the significance of it. I mean, it's blindingly obvious anyway, but to see and just for me acknowledging what went into it was just fantastic. And then what the team have been doing to get us to these papers and everything we've been doing as well. Kevin now started from day to day. That just want to report my thanks to people, and if any questions or comments are from a position of goodwill, and but really acknowledge how challenging it would be to get multi-council to come together and actually how monumental that is. It's just it's just first class. So congratulations, everybody. Much appreciated from a director to be working. So thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to underline that. I think foundations are really strong. My impressions, as I said in my report, are really a lot of talent across the family. There's a lot of challenging issues there, but actually lots and lots of opportunities. So I think we need to approach it with that positive attitude. We can't do everything overnight. We need to be pretty hard-nosed about what we're going to tackle now and what we're going to leave until we're formally live. But I think everyone's done a great job to get us where we are. We are miles ahead of many other organisations. So that's a huge credit to the team and the two councils. These are not easy things to get through. And actually, they're relatively low controversy at this stage, and we've got an election approaching. So it's a huge tribute to the team and the hard work they've done. Yeah, great.
And just following up on Steve, at the property having our staff there, and actually, I think the realism actually hit the road and actually looked and they actually saw this is the thing. Our partners are coming together, there's unity there. I think it actually gave them a sense of confidence as well. There's stability, there's stability amongst the board and the partners that want this.
Yeah. Okay. Tim, do you want to say a few words to close us?
Your tātou hui, hini anō kia koutou, mō tō kāro, mō tō kā, mō tēnei mahi wai Māori, mō tātou hāpuri, mō tātou whanaunga, tō wakapu i kirikiriro. I karakia mō te timata o tātou hui, i karakia mō te mutunga o tātou hui. I tātou tātou katoa, te atoa o tātou hui ki hui. Aroa me te atoa, ngā tātou te waru,
Thank you. Very good. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Yeah. I think the next one might be touched on.